Thank you very much. I'm going to take the privilege of maybe launching this discussion here, and I'll turn it over to my colleagues. First of all, I want to encourage more members of the public to attend, either remotely or in person, the City Council's budget hearings. Now, we have a room full tonight, and we're really happy to see the leadership, much of the leadership of the City of Sacramento sitting here, and a number of members of the community here as well, some to testify about the budget, but we only had, I think, 4 or 5 people signed up. And I just want to say to all of the careholders, because I think that's the proper term now, right? In this community, the leadership, the business community, the labor community, the various CBOs, all the folks who rightfully have strong opinions about this city and some of its policies and what we do and what we don't do. The budget is the most important thing that a city does, that a city council does. It is the value statement for the entire city. And so do not give it a pass. And if you do give it a pass, then when it comes to complaining that XYZ, name it, code enforcement, law enforcement, housing, art and culture, is not being funded enough, it's hard to complain after the fact. And it's really, really important, because I sometimes think the civic culture around here, because you're going to hear me say this often, is too much of people who come forward when they have a specific issue or a specific concern or complaint. And they come forward and they come here in numbers and they rile it up. This is the business of your city. And it's $1 billion plus budget. And you ought to take an interest in at least the outlines of this budget. And so striking to me that, and it's not the only budget season, this happens all the time. We need more, not just community engagement, but leadership engagement in the adoption of this city budget. So that's one thing I wanted to say. The second thing I wanted to say, I said this afternoon. I said this afternoon to the members of the city leadership team, but I want to repeat it, and I want to, obviously, maybe more people watching at 5 o'clock. And what I'm about to say, to me, is not politics. This is about the challenges and the opportunities of governing and leading modern cities. The role of cities are changing, and it's not just Sacramento. The city's traditional role has been to provide basic services. And that remains the most important thing that a city does. And if we don't do that well, then we can't do anything else. But one of the points of tension, I know, unspoken, some spoken often, is that the city leadership, and really I think it's pretty much across the board, it's not really philosophical or political as much as it's, again, I think the changing nature of modern cities, is that the community is saying to us, we want you to invest as well directly in our communities. We want you to invest directly in young people. We want you to invest in the nonprofit sector. We want you to invest in certainly affordable housing and alleviating homelessness. We want you to invest in building up art and culture, and we want you to invest directly in building a more modern economy that creates and attracts more industries and more jobs. And we want you to invest more in climate. We hear that a lot too, as that is obviously one of the seminal issues of our time. And the tension here at City Hall over these last 6 years, but really it's more than that. It goes back beyond my mayorship. It's really been about the last 15 years or so when you look at it, is that we are in this constant struggle with a limited tax base, although we have more money than we've had before, thanks to Measure U and the fact that we've managed our budgets very well. Thank you to the staff and to my colleagues for the way we have worked through this. But the tension, and it's a good tension, even if it's sometimes painful, is what is the balance between investing externally in our community in all these categories and investing in building up our city workforce and in our city operations. And so as I said this afternoon, to paraphrase the old biblical proverb, there is a season for everything. And this is the season with $17 million of additional money, and I think there's a consensus here, and maybe more, because we can always find creative ways, and a lot of that will be determined through the course of collective bargaining with our unions, which we not only respect, we uplift and uphold, that our collective commitment in this season is to invest in you and to invest in our city workforce and to invest in making sure that the bones, if you will, of this city and the city government are strong so that we can deliver the services. Now, this is not the end of the creative tension. And the politicians, again, it's not political. This is what big cities now are about. The debate will continue, and together we will struggle and we will find the right balance, but we're going to continue to invest in affordable housing and continue to invest in inclusive economic development and making sure economic development, that we've got real tools so that we can partner with the private sector as we do we do with struggle because the tools are sort of limited, the EIFDs and the other things. We're going to continue to invest externally. And we're going to make sure that we always care for and respect the people who dedicate themselves, you, and the people who work for you, to the public service. And that's what this season is about. And we're all committed to that. And I want you to hear it. It means we value you. We always have. But now we're going to back it up, at least the best that we can. A couple more comments. On Measure U itself, I know we're going to hear from Chair Dickinson and some of the Measure U folks in another item. Still working with City Finance and Management. It's not quite ready yet, but over the course of the next week, maybe at the next council hearing, I want to present the actual arc of expenditure since the second half of Measure U passed in 2018 to show that we are imperfectly, because it's always imperfect, but attaining a pretty good balance in terms of external investment and investing in our city workforce. On Measure L, Monica, thank you for coming forward. I had a talk with the city manager and the city clerk today, both really working hard and doing the right thing. And I know Mayor Pro Tem Vang, of course, is leading on this issue. But the number one thing we can do to get this process started is to have the city council members appoint members of the advisory commission that's going to guide the expenditures. And Mindy, our city clerk, is doing the right thing by asking some real questions like, how do we make sure that with the city attorney that we're not putting anybody in a conflict of interest position when they're appointed, et cetera. But that work could be done in the next week. Once that work is done, we don't have to come to the full council. We're going to get that out, and I'm just going to urge the members here all publicly. Take care in making your appointment, of course, but make it relatively quickly. Because if we can, by the summertime, have this commission up and running, and then we can start our work, because one of the luxuries, if you will, that we have is that the proponents, well, we actually helped write this with SAC Kids First, but we all decided, and there's pro and con in this. I think overall pro is that we don't spend any of the money in 23-24, but we have to bank the money. That means July 1 of 2024, we're going to estimate $15, $16, $17 million of additional youth money once our city auditor sets the baseline to be able to invest in Measure L and in the categories that Monica mentioned, while we work again with the city team and the city manager to address our other youth-related issues like park maintenance and all the other things that we need to do. But we have time. But let's not let time waste. Let's get that commission going, and so they can begin meeting, and so they're not making some last-minute next May set of recommendations. They're really working at it, and you better believe, they're going to work at it. And SAC Kids First is going to be right there, helping to organize that along with the city council. Okay, last thing for me, climate action. I think, there's a little bit of back and forth between some of the activists in the community and people who really do hard work. And how can you deny that climate is the existential threat of our time? And at the same time, we're a city, right? We don't have billions of dollars. But they're asking us for more. Now, I can defend our record. In fact, I have to KCRA today in light of the so-called report card that they put out. I talk about our groundbreaking electrification ordinance, all the resources we have put in, our percentage of clean fleet vehicles within the city. Long list. But you know what? They're right to press us. And whatever our grade is, if it's not an A, it's not good enough. So we need to take whatever steps we can, right, and continue to push. And here's one thing that I'd like to ask the city manager, and we have talked about this. I know that Jennifer Venema's climate team is now within Ryan Moore's shop, right, within Public Works. There is some added value there in terms of broader capacity. I'd like to quantify what that is and specifically to see how that reorganization can add additional hours, time, resources to Jennifer's team and effort. But that's not all. I'd like to use this budget, limited as it is, to add at least one additional FTE, however we can do it, to Ms. Venema's climate team. Because there's a lot of work to do. It's not just the climate action plan. You know what I think about? Working with council member, I know Valenzuela is working on this, others are working on this as well, and that is the next transportation measure or housing measure that we might want to take to the ballot in 2024, either with the countywide, or maybe citywide, I don't know. We need internal staff capacity because that ought to be focused on climate, and Jennifer needs more help. She's terrific, as we know, but we need to continue to boost that. We did that last year. We added one FTE. Let's add at least another, and then let's add some in-kind, however you want to define it, through the reorganization, and let's really show the community that we're committed to bolstering our internal staff efforts so that we can lead faster and on more initiatives when it comes to climate. All right? Those are my comments. We are going to do right by the city workforce across the bargaining table, and we're going to do our very best to bolster all of the good and hard work that you do. That's what this season is about.